What's up, friends, and welcome into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Daniel Courtwright here on this beautiful Thursday. Going to be opening up the show, breaking down KU women's basketball. They took down Haskell last night in a whomping 107-39 in the City Showdown, the 785 game, 75 community night as well. A great crowd. Haskell really brought a ton of fans to this game as well. KU, obviously, the better program, but a really great night in terms of atmosphere, in terms of, what it meant for the community, what it meant for Haskell, what it meant for Kansas. First time they've met up since 1974, so a really cool matchup between the two. I'm going to be breaking that down. I was there at the game yesterday. Brittany Harshaw had a fantastic game against Haskell. She had 26 points and quite a few threes. So, it's good to see her finally coming to. After that, going to be talking to the voice of the Jayhawks, Brian Hanni. Going to be talking all things KU basketball. He's going to be live via Zoom. Really appreciate Brian for hopping on the show. Like I said, going to be talking about Melvin Council. Going to be talking, about a little bit of Darren Peterson, what's coming up on his newest episode of Haney and the Hawks. He's actually recording it today with KJ Adams. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is going to be KJ Adams. So really, really excited for that interview. Really excited for you guys to be able to watch that one as well. Afterwards, going to be hearing from the Lilly Meister and Brittany Harshaw. They were made available to the media after the 107-39 victory over the Haskell Indian Nations College. After that, very special guest, first time on the show, known him for a long time, used to work with him at the old job, Caden Letche from the University Daily Kansan and KJHK. He's a journalism student. He's been writing. He's been on the radio, working his butt off. So I figured, hey, what better time to bring on Caden Letche to talk a little ball with you, talk a little KU basketball. Really exciting stuff. After that, Brandon Schneider was made available to the media after the 107-39 victory over Haskell. So we're going to hear from that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of KU football talk, just kind of, where we sit as of right now. I'm going to continue to give KU football updates, and eventually we will start sort of a positional group breakdown in terms of what we saw from this year. So I might start that off this episode as well. Going to start off, KU takes down Haskell, like I said, 107-39 in an absolute just stomping of Haskell. But again, the game meant a lot more to the community, right? This is the two colleges in Lawrence, and they haven't faced off since 1974. And, their head coach, Haskell's head coach, he came to Brandon Schneider, or I guess Brandon Schneider reached out to him after he went through everything that he went through last year with, the government cuts and him losing his job, but he stuck with his job without being compensated. It's an incredible story. If you don't know about it, look it up, because it is a really cool story. Obviously went through some adverse times, and Brandon Schneider reached out to him, said, "What can I do for you?" And he kind of jokingly said, "Well, how about we play a guarantee game?" And Brandon kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, well, we'll try." And then all of a sudden, a couple months later, he gets a phone call, says, "Hey, December 17th, we're looking for an opponent. You guys in?" So that one set this one up, and it's really cool to have the two Lawrence colleges playing against each other, like I said, for the first time since 1974. And, they really shone a light on indigenous people as well. Obviously, Haskell is an Indian Nations college. So it was a lot of fun overall, and I'll kind of break down kind of what I saw out of this game. A lot to really, enjoy. The biggest thing coming out of this game was Brittany Harshaw. She had 24 points at the half. She went 5 for 8 from the 3-point line. She went 5 for 6 in the first half from 3 with 24 points. Unbelievable from Brittany Harshaw. Brittany Harshaw has not had a good year this year up until this game. And you'll hear this in the post-game press conferences where everybody's saying, yeah, Brittany, in practice, every single drill that we do, every, time we run down the court, it doesn't matter what we're doing, shoot around, whatever it may be, she just doesn't miss. And it just hasn't shown in games, right? She has the most amount of threes for a Jayhawk in a game in her career. That was last year against Iowa State. But this year we haven't really been able to see Brittany Harshaw get back to that level, right? She's been coming off the bench, getting some minutes here and there, and this game was kind of a evaluation game, if you will, for this Kansas squad, right? Because they started off really hot, and then they lost a couple out in Georgia. They come back, and now, like I said, it's kind of a deep breath moment where a lot of those bench players are getting a lot of minutes, right? And Brandon even said this. He says he thinks the bench is a key for them. So Brittany Harshaw coming off the bench with 26 points, excuse me. She finished with 26 points. She had 24 in the first half. But Brittany, she only played 18 minutes in this game. She went 9 for 14 from the field, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, 3 for 3 from the free throw line. Incredible swing for her in terms of her confidence, her momentum, and I think we're going to see a bit of a pickup in Brittany's playing time as the season kind of progresses, because like I said, she finally came to. It's almost like Melvin Council this year, where he was shooting 18% from the three-point line, and all of a sudden he has 9 threes. Brittany Harshaw, kind of the same story, right? She was not shooting well from the three. She was not playing well. None of her shots were falling in game. And then all of a sudden in this Haskell game, she really gains her confidence back, which I think is obviously important, right? And they were leaving her wide open too. I mean, she was wide open on a couple of these threes. And, after she hits 4 of them, you probably go, okay, maybe we should guard her. And then on her 5th one, there wasn't anybody in the same zip code. So that was fun to see. So that was probably the main story. I will say I'm a little bit concerned because I want to talk a little bit of depth here on this Kansas women's basketball team, because Jalea Davis was in a walking boot. And Brandon said after the game, he said, hey, she's day-to-day right now. She could potentially be back for the Iowa State game, which is coming up, right? Obviously, they have the number 1 scorer in the nation, going to be an NBA or WNBA lottery pick in Audie Crooks. So you need Jalea out there. So she's day-to-day. As of right now, she was in a walking boot. And then Reagan Williams was in a full knee brace. So there's 2 power forwards that you're looking at thinking, oh, crap. This is not good. Like, we need power forwards. We need people at the 4 spot. We have our 2 best power forwards both out with injuries. Now, it's good that it happened against Haskell, and Jalea could potentially be back for the Iowa State game. Brandon did say that Reagan is a little bit farther away than Jalea is, and we don't know exactly what the status of Reagan is. We're not entirely sure what the knee issue is. She's always had that shoulder brace. I think she even wore it in high school, but with the knee brace, that's relatively new, and hopefully she's able to come back this year and provide a little bit of assistance for us. So I want to kind of roll through this because Elle Evans had a fantastic game as well. She had 14 points. She was 2 for 3 from the three-point line, 50%. I mean, what more could you ask for out of Elle Evans? Obviously, she's the sharpshooter. She's the tall the tall woman on the team that can get in there and get those rebounds as well. But her main priority is, hey, she plays essentially the 3. She's the shooting guard. She's the one who can hit those threes. She had a lot of rebounds as well. She had 6 rebounds. She had a couple of steals. A couple assists. She had a block too. So she was really doing it all. I mean, Elle Evans, she's our 5-tool kind of player on that squad. The Lilly Meister had a great game too. She had her season high, or career high, actually, with 14 points. This is her 3rd game in a row that she's gotten over double digits. Her career high was 12. She had 11 at half, and then came out in the second half. Didn't play a whole lot. She might have played 4 or 5 minutes in the second half, just because I think that they were trying to get a little bit of rest for some of the starters, and B, some more experience for some of those bench players, right, as they move on into the Iowa State game. But Lilly Meister played a fantastic game. She went 6 for 8 from the field. She did shoot a 3, though, and we've heard Brandon say that he wants Lilly to be shooting 3s out there. I believe this might be her first 3 of the year, maybe her second attempted 3. of the year. I'm not quite sure on that. I'll have to double check on those numbers. She had 20 minutes though, and I thought she was just absolutely dominant down low. And what I want to look for is a lot of stuff down low, just in terms of how well they played, how high their confidence is heading into this Iowa State game. Because you had 2 games in a row with Denver and Haskell where you hold both of them to under 40. That's unbelievable for confidence. And then also against Haskell, you score 107 is really impressive, right? So in terms of confidence for a lot of your girls, I think that this is a gigantic step forward, especially for Lilly. And I asked Lilly about it after the game. I said, hey, how big is this for you, especially going up against Audie Crooks next week? Or I guess it's going to be on Sunday. And she said it's absolutely huge, right? Obviously gaining that confidence, feeling good, getting in sort of that flow state, I think is kind of where they want to be as of right now. So Lilly had a great game. Samaya only had 11 points. She only played 15 minutes. I didn't expect Samaya to play a whole heck of a lot in this game. Samaya obviously is the head of the snake, but we've seen her a couple of times go down with relatively scary injuries and be able to pop up and get extremely lucky that it wasn't anything more serious. So you don't want Samaya getting injured in a game like Haskell, and also you want to get some of those other girls a little bit of experience, right? And we saw a ton of minutes out of that bench, right? We saw Brittany Harshaw come off the bench with 26 points, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, like I said. Sanaya Copeland had 19 points. I liked her minutes. She had 9 points. 7 of them were from the free throw line. But I really liked what I saw out of her on the defensive end. She was scrappy, and she was getting in those passing lanes. She had 5 steals on this game. I mean, unbelievable on the defensive end of the ball by Sanaya Copeland. She's not the tallest person on the team. Actually, she might, in fact, be the shortest person on the team. But 5 steals in, whatever it was, 19 minutes, that's impressive stuff. So hats off to Sanaya Copeland on the defensive end of the ball. Laya Canessa had a good game. I really liked all of her minutes as well. Only 8 points, 23 minutes, but whenever Laya's out there, she's so fast and she's such a good facilitator of the ball that it's just, you feel so confident with her, right? She had 8 assists in this game. She was leading assister in this game. So I think that's fantastic to see that out of Laya Canessa coming off the bench, having 8 assists. A lot of them were to Brittany Harshaw on those threes, but just you can see the court vision out of Laya. Nadira El Tayeb came off and she had a really good she had really good minutes as well, and the fact that Nadira El Tayeb was able to play 17 minutes in this game is huge, because if you remember last year against Iowa State, it was really tough against Audie Crooks, and Nadira El Tayeb did a really good job at containing her early. But then Nadira winds up getting into foul trouble, and you put Reagan on her, and you need Reagan out there, so there wasn't as many, you weren't playing her as hard, you weren't fouling as much, and Audie Crooks kind of took over in that game as well. But in terms of Nadira El Tayeb, what I want to see out of her, I would imagine, especially if Reagan is not going to be coming back anytime soon, she's not going to be back for the Iowa State game, you're going to have to assume that Nadira El Tayeb is probably going to get the start, right? Because you look down the list, you have Lilly, right, as the big. You're probably going to throw Nadira out there. Maybe switch them around, put Nadira at the 5 and Lilly at the 4, because Lilly, I think, has a little bit more range in terms of who she can guard. But having Lilly come over on help defense on Audie Crooks, I think, is going to be massively important. Brandon talked about Audie Crooks in the post-game press conference. He said, I asked him about it, and he said, I wish we had 10 more fouls. It's essentially what he said, just so we can try to stop her, get her to the free throw line and not let her dominate down low. I think is, that's obviously key. But, I mean, you look at the starters, right? You had Lilly, who was the big, Samaya point guard. You had Libby Fandel, Keely Parks, and then you had Elle Evans. Elle was technically the 4, but you have to have her out because she's really the three-point shooter. So, we don't really have a 4 right now, except for Nadira El Tayeb or Lilly Meister, right? Tatiana Brown is technically a 4. right? She's technically a power forward, but I wasn't crazy about the minutes that she had last night. You can still tell that she's a little bit raw, just a little bit, just needs to be molded, right? She's got excellent length, and she's got excellent shot blocking abilities. She had 2 blocks on the night. 7 rebounds for Tatiana Brown. She only had 1 point, right? She went 0 for 5 from the field. Offensively, I think that defensively she is a great asset to have. On the offensive side of the ball, she needs to get better at her post moves and, just better control of the ball, I think, for Tatiana Brown. So who knows? Maybe we'll throw Tatiana Brown out there on Audie Crooks. But at the same time, you got to look at it and think, whoever we're throwing out there who's going to be guarding Audie Crooks, they're going to get 2 fouls probably right away because she's so hard to guard and she's so tough down low and so tough and physical. And she's just a beast, man. She's just a beast. And it's really going to be tough. So, in terms of this Iowa State game, I'm not really sure what to expect out of these girls. Does Brittany Harshaw come off the bench and shoot at a high clip once again? I certainly hope so, right? You're probably going to need a lot of rotation because looking at Iowa State, they have Audie Crooks down low, but then they have a lot of sharpshooters on the outside as well, and that's where they get a lot of their points too, right? Whenever they have Audie Crooks down low and she's getting hounded, boom, she kicks it out, and all of a sudden, you get a 3-pointer from Jada Williams or Kinsey Hare or any of these girls really. So I think 3-point defense is really going to be important, and I think that also determines kind of who you put out there. I think Elle, right, she's got the length to be able to guard anybody out on the perimeter. Libby and Keeley are really coming too. I've really liked the growth and progression that we've seen out of Libby Fandela, right? She came off a 17-point game against Denver. Libby, in this one, she had 8. I liked all of her minutes, right? She had 2 threes. I think she's going to be a key piece to this program, key piece to this team this year, right? I just don't see her coming out of the starting lineup because of the growth that she's had. Keely Parks started off slow for the Jayhawks, and she's really come to as well. She also had 8 points in 22 minutes, and this one also had a couple of threes. So you feel good about the youth on this program and kind of how they've been progressing, the pace that they've been progressing. And you feel good for 2 reasons. A, for now, because they're going to be impact players on the squad. And B, for the future, because they're only going to continue to get better with Libby, with Keeley, and with Jalea. So that's exciting, but you need to get Jalea back is essentially the number one thing that you have to do. Jalea coming back to this program, dealing with this foot injury. It's lower leg injury. We're not entirely sure what the exact status of it is right now, but Brandon did say that she is day-to-day, and they're still kind of figuring it out. If she comes back for Iowa State, that's going to be huge. But Iowa State, they're a top 10 team, right? They score a ton of points. They have Audie Crooks down low, who's just a monster. So, it's going to be a tough game for this Kansas women's squad. But, hey, you know what? We're going to enjoy this one, right? Obviously, you beat Haskell 107-39. You beat Denver. You held them to only 38 points. I mean, that confidence in your defense makes you feel good going up against a high-caliber offensive team like Iowa State, especially in Ames, right? I mean, you're going up to Ames on Sunday in their house. It's opening up Big 12 play, and we had a lot of high hopes for this program coming into this year with Jalea, with Libby, with Samaya, with Keeley, with Elle, all of these girls. You had really high hopes, and you were even thinking maybe in the back of your mind, this is a Big 12 championship contending team, right? Talking regular season or tournament, doesn't matter, right? This is a NCAA tournament team that we can see out of these girls, and it all starts Big 12 play at least. Starts on Sunday against Iowa State, who again is just an outstanding program. So, all in all, I really liked what I saw against Haskell. Right, Kansas started off a little bit slow. I actually think they trailed in this game 5-3 at the beginning, and then it was all KU from there. And a lot of the points, a lot of the minutes came from that bench. And when you look at the bench, there's really not one girl who you can look at and say, oh, they're just walk on the bench. They kind of all of these girls play a key role in this game. We see Tatiana Brown minutes almost every game, virtually every game. We see Nadira Tayeb minutes. We see Sanaya minutes. We see Laya. We see a lot of Laya minutes coming off the bench, right? So every single person on this bench plays a key role in this, which I think is important for fresh legs, for keeping consistency throughout the game in terms of not a steep downfall of major talent, because I think that a lot of the bench players are almost just as talented as a lot of the starters. So we'll certainly see. But hey, enjoy this one. Like I said, 107-39, Kansas defeats Haskell. Hey, after this, we're going to hear from the Lilly Meister and Brittany Harshaw, who had 26 points and 5 threes in this game. Lilly Meister also had her career high as well. On Rock Chalk Sports, right here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City.
What's up, everybody? Dan Peterson. Everybody go check out KansasNation.com.
Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Want to shout out Game Day Men's Health and Miles Schneider Crown Automotive for being great partners with us. Also Jefferson's, as they sponsor the Haney and the Hawks podcast that we have on our social media platforms and our YouTube and Spotify, everywhere that we have it. And right now I'm joined by the host of Haney and the Hawks, Brian Hanni. Brian, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. First things first, we haven't talked to you since the Melvin Council Legacy game. 36 points, 15 shot threes. He made 9 of them, which is second most out of any Jayhawk in school history in a single game. I know it was a while ago, and I know Kansas has played a game since then against Towson. I want to get to the Towson game, but first, just your overall thoughts and takeaways, and where was your mind at after Melvin Council just went off like that against NC State in a hostile environment out in Raleigh at the Lenovo Center?
Well, first off, it's okay to ask about it 5 days later because we'll probably be talking about it 15 years from now.
Yeah.
When you talk about one of the all-time great three-point shooting games. And truly, for me in my career, I think most folks my age or slightly older would agree with this. I've never seen anything like it where not only did he do that, second best three-point shooting game in KU history, but it started with him being the most welcomed to shoot player on the floor. And by that, I mean Will Wade's defensive strategy was back way off, 8-10 feet off the ball when he catches it on the perimeter, dare him to shoot. Now, you see that a lot of times with like a power forward or a center where they sag way off, and maybe the guy steps up and hits one or two, and then the defense adjusts. You rarely see it with a guard, and you rarely see them continue to test him. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the specific timestamp, late in the first half when they really started to contest, because even after he put in 3 or 4 of them, he was still being given room to take them. It wasn't until after that where they started to come out a bit because, when you're 10 games in on a season and a guy's shooting 19% and he's never hit more than 2 in a game, you probably think the first 2 or 3 are fluky, and you let the percentages catch up and eventually, regress back to the mean. But in this case, he just needed some confidence. He just needed some runway and I don't just mean by runway, the space to shoot the ball. I mean some runway of, hey, I can shoot through some misses, because right now DP early in the game doesn't seem to have the same juice. Nobody else is stepping up. This team needs a catalyst. And so he was allowed, even at 3 for 8 to open the game, to keep on firing. And you asked, what are we thinking in the midst of that? To be honest, if you go back and listen to it, Greg and I both at one point or another, probably early in the second half, said, okay, well, we need to get somebody else going here because his shooting percentages are still very low. And it's probably not their most efficient brand of basketball to see him take 20-plus shots. And we were hoping that Trey White would step it up, a guy that for much of Darren Peterson's absence this season has been your go-to guy. We were hoping that you'd see other Jayhawks, whether it was playing through the post or having some more perimeter help emerge. Early in that second half, before he really, really, really caught fire, the numbers were still pretty bad, actually. And then all of a sudden, he just starts reining them in, and he's out of his mind. And it's one of those special games that you see, maybe once every 5 or 6 years, where a guy is just in fuego, as Dan Patrick used to say on Sports Center, and it's like get out of his way and watch him go nuts. Now, it proved to be a game you only see once every 35 years because you got to go back to 1991. Coincidentally, also against NC State, the last time a Jayhawk hit that many threes, and it was downtown Terry Brown, who ironically we had referenced earlier in the broadcast having nothing to do with his 3-point shooting record-setting game, but because of that atmosphere you described at the Lenovo Center. Back in the day, they used to have these things at Kansas called terry cloths. I'm surprised I don't have one on the wall behind me here in my home office, but it was a terry cloth fabric with Terry Brown's name and the number 3 on it, and we would wave those things every time he would get hot in a game back in the early 90s. Well, Lenovo Center was not only sold out 19,000 plus, but they had these modern day 2025 issued towels that had lights on them and they lit up. And so it was not only a towel, but think like a rally towel with like a glow stick inside of it. And so we were talking about Terry, ironically, earlier in the game, having no idea that 2.5 hours later we'd be pouring through the stat sheets and record books and saying, "Oh my gosh, we really haven't seen a game like this since he did it in '91." So kudos to, first off, Melvin Council for having the confidence to keep firing. You heard the quote from Bill Self that the truly great ones don't remember the misses, they only remember the makes. And so when he was off to a 3 for 8, 3 for 9 start, he wasn't thinking about the 5 or 6 he'd missed. He was thinking about, wow, I've already hit three. I've never hit more than two in a game before, at Kansas, that is. And then once he caught fire, kudos to the rest of the guys for clearing out, giving him some space, finding the best opportunity for him to step up and score late in the ball game, deferring to the hot hand. And it proved to be enough. You don't want to win that game on a regular basis because obviously, those shots aren't going to fall at a prolific clip very often. But it was good to see him back it up with a pretty strong performance on the other night on Tuesday with his 15 points and three more threes. Shows you that while you can't count on anything north of 5 or 6 on a very regular basis, he can be counted upon to step up and hit 2 or 3. And that makes this offense so much more dynamic when you add additional firepower shooters on the wing. We thought that would be Cole Rosario. I still think it can be. We thought that would be more regularly Jaden Dawson. Still hopeful for him. But to see a guy that was never brought in to be a 3-point shooter show you that he can be trusted and leaned upon a little bit, it certainly helps, and couldn't come at a better time when it looks like, Darren Peterson is still a ways away from being all we think he can be.
Right. Yeah. And I wanted to kind of expand on just Melvin Council's role because I was actually talking to Henry Greenstein from KSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World about this. And he said that early in the season, Melvin Council kind of deemed himself the leader of this team, and everybody kind of laughed and shrugged it off. Even Bill Self was like, did Melvin Council really say that? But then, with Darren Peterson being hurt, he's had to be, and he's done a really good job at sort of stepping into that leadership role. And you're even continuing this momentum into that Towson game. I want to talk about the Towson game because Melvin Council did go 3 for 6. That's 50%. That's still really, really good. So, I mean, in theory, it wasn't a fluke. Now, granted, you got to get some more games in, right? You talked about regression to the mean, that kind of thing. But the Towson game, to me, you saw Melvin Council, he didn't lose that hard drive that he has, right? Because that's what I think of whenever I see Melvin Council play basketball is putting the ball on the ground, driving hard to the basket, either kicking it out or making a tough layup or hitting kind of a mid-range jumper. And it's not like he improved on his 3-point shooting and he missed that. It's just he added the 3-point shooting to his bag. So talk about the leadership aspect that you see out of Melvin Council, especially with the absence of Darren Peterson in so many games.
Well, you mentioned the hard driving where he puts the ball on the deck and goes and creates. To me, I call that being assertive. Like whether there's an obvious lane to drive or not, he's got that next level burst and explosion off the bounce. It's really hard to stay in front of. And so whether you're scoring in transition or in a half court set on a blow by, if you get all the way to the cup, one of three things is going to happen, and all of them are pretty good. Obviously, you could miss and they could get the defensive rebound, but let's just put that on the side and look at the initial results of getting to the rim. You could make it and get 2 points that way. You could draw a foul and go to the free throw line where, other than crunch time in overtime in Raleigh, he's been really good from the free throw line. Or you put the ball up on the rim and, one of the more springy athletic front courts we've seen in the last 5 years has, in most cases, a 50-50 shot at getting the ball in scoring position on the iron. So those are all pretty good things, if he can be that type of aggressive, assertive attacker, either in transition or in a half court set with that explosive first step. The problem is, I think for the first 8 or 9 games, he wasn't the most efficient finisher and sometimes was a little too sped up. There were a lot of wild misses where he blows by you, but doesn't necessarily have that Keith Langford, Sharon Collins, twisting and contorting in traffic, feathery touch, to finish with great high efficiency. But what you're seeing right now is a guy whose confidence is growing by the day. And as Bill Self says, he plays with joy. He is talking about in post game the other night with the stand-up interview I did with him, how much he's loving life in Lawrence, and every day he is a blessing for him, and he thanks God he's a Jayhawk and all that. I mean, he's a guy that's literally having the time of his life right before our eyes, and so with that mindset and mentality, that attitude of gratitude, and not letting any day go by without realizing how lucky he is to be here. You're seeing a guy whose mental makeup and mindset is optimal, and his confidence thus has a great chance to just skyrocket. And that's what I think we're watching develop these last couple of ball games, and hopefully that spills over into conference play. In terms of the leadership, you want the guy with the ball in his hands who's initiating your offense, whether he's doing the hard driving that you're talking about or just penetrating to pitch. You want that guy to be one of your leaders, if not the leader. We always say the point guard is the extension of the head coach on the floor. And so until you get your true alpha back in Darren Peterson, that's a great other option to be that. And even when Darren is fully back and hopefully gets to the version of himself that we all know is in there, it's great to have two guys like that have a killer instinct, that have supreme confidence, that have excellent floor vision, the team's best interest in mind, because he's not a selfish attacker. When we talk about, the assertiveness and the hard driving that you're referencing, he'll take it if it's there, but he's looking for what's best for this team. And, we've seen him at times force the issue early in the season, but I think now you're more okay with him forcing it as the efficiency numbers start to go up and he proves he's more and more capable of scoring at a more frequent clip. So couldn't be happier for the young man. One of the most likable and easy to cheer for guys you could possibly have. And yeah, he likes Paramore, which people my age like Paramore. Ain't it fun? He's singing that in his car, and now it's on the Jumbotron and all over social media. And, I'm like, wow, I have musical taste in common with Melvin Council. I wouldn't have guessed that because I'm so old. But that and the dog thing, man. Obviously the famous quote he had back in June that if you're not a dog, you're dog food, and fans have really wrapped their arms around that notion. And shoot, his teammates have too. I told this story briefly on the game broadcast the other day, but we were taping his pregame interview for the NC State game, having no idea he was going to be featured so prominently in Raleigh. And we're doing this in the Topeka Forbes Field Airport. And his teammates one by one are walking by going, woof, woof. And Marco Jackson goes, woof, 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 woof. And he starts laughing. And Marco's laughing. I'm laughing. Melvin's laughing. We have to stop the interview and reset. So it's not just the fans. It's not just the student section. It's his teammates too. And I had some folks I was interacting with on Twitter last night that had a great idea about, can we get some Melvin Council jerseys for dogs? What a great seller that would be. And I had referenced that, man, when I hear that idea, me, I love the Humane Society, and we do so much to partner with them throughout the year through various events. And I thought, man, if we could get some dog jerseys with Melvin's digits on it and Council on the back and all that, think of the fundraiser it could be for the Lawrence Humane Society, where, for every dog jersey you purchase, a certain portion of the money goes back to the Humane Society. And then And then obviously the Humane Society dogs could be models for him and that kind of thing. It hasn't taken off just yet. There's a lot of logistics that go into that, including licensing and everything. But the point is, you've got folks cooking up ideas like that because they're all in on the council bandwagon right now. And I think that's fabulous to see a guy in this transfer portal era where many of these players, you only get a chance to get to know them for 6 or 7 months and then they're gone. He is being embraced fully by Jayhawk Nation and beloved by all right now. And usually it takes a longer ramp up of a guy that's here for 2 or 3 years to, have that type of groundswell of fan support. But he's getting it right out the gates, and it's because he's delivering some performances that, in the case of NC State, we just don't see very often.
Yeah. Well, you might be down for two of those jerseys. I have two dogs myself, and I would definitely buy a couple. That would be that's actually a really great idea. Brian Hanni, voice of the Jayhawks, joins us here via Zoom, and Brian, we got to talk about, I guess it's an elephant in the room. Kansas fans, not that there's anything wrong with them, but they seem to, the biggest story surrounding Kansas basketball obviously is Darren Peterson and kind of the injury saga that he's having. First it was, the hamstring, then it was a bug. Now it's this quad issue. There's a lot of rumors flying around about, what his plan is and everything, but just talk about, give us a sense of calm, I guess, because we spend more time around these guys than the average person does. And by all aspects of it, whenever we're around Darren Peterson, the general consensus is he's not the kind of guy to sit out and wait for the NBA. The kid wants to play ball, right? I mean, he's an absolute ball player. That's all he wants to do. And Bill Self has even said this in press conferences. He's just dealing with, just some unfortunate injuries. We've seen cramping issues in the past, even with Jayhawks like Malik Newman, Devontae Graham, with other players outside of there like Cooper Flagg, Paolo Banchero, those kind of guys. Give us a sense of solace in terms of, where you think this is at, because they're working with a ton of different doctors and, they're calling everybody that they know and they're continuing to improve. And I've been, pretty upfront about this, saying I'm generally okay with getting him healthy, at least until Big 12 play. Like Big 12 play is when he needs to be the healthiest. So just kind of tell us, where you're at with Darren Peterson and kind of with his injuries and with the cramping issues.
Well, first off, it's a highly unique situation because when else do you see a case of a prospect who has missed now 8 of his team's first 11 games? And am I getting that right? Or is it 8 of 11 now? Yeah.
12 or yeah.
Yeah, he's played 4. So yeah, I'm sorry. We're 9-3. Beg your pardon. I'm still updating my spotting boards for Davidson here. We're 9-3. By the way, only program in America 9-3 or better for 20 straight years. That's truly the self effect. And Duke can't say that. Carolina can't say that. It's incredible. But yeah, sorry, we played 12 games. So he's missed 8 of his 12 that he could have played in. And when have you ever seen a prospect that was, and this is a really good class, by the way, too. It's not like there's nothing behind him. I mean, you got Boozer and Wilson and obviously Devonson, so many big time talents in this same age group, same draft class, all that. When have you ever seen a guy that over a month and a half has missed 67% of his potential playing opportunities and his number 1 overall draft line hasn't budged?
Yeah.
ESPN just on Tuesday put out their latest, draft projections for the summer of 2026, and he's still on the 1 line with a bullet. And so that speaks to the unique prospect that he is, that right now, it's to this point not affecting his draft status. And so that's why I think you see some people on the various podcasts out there, and it seems like everybody's got a podcast and a show now, putting out these 60-second viral clips that have their opinion on what Darren should do and what his advisors should do and all this stuff. And the truth of the matter is, while yes, Kansas has his best interest and his long-term NBA future in mind above all else, doing what's best for the kid. That's always been Bill Self's way of doing it. While they have that in mind, make no mistake, Darren is a competitor. Darren is a great teammate. Darren is beat up inside in his heart and in his gut that he can't be out there right now because he is able to practice every day, and he loves the guys in this locker room. I told you, gosh, 6 weeks ago about how impressed I was that this, seemingly, if not humble superstar, down to earth superstar. And I'm not saying he's not humble, by the way. I'm just trying to put the right word on it because the first exposure I ever had to him was walking him around, watching him walk around rather this Kansas basketball facility, dapping up everybody from the Flory Bidungas of the roster down to the Wilder Evers and the Will Thingvalls, and treating each guy with the same level of excitement to see them, respect and rapport, and the fun that he's genuinely having as a young college freshman on a college campus with his teammates, yucking it up at practice, laughing, having a good time. Heck, even on the days when, he's not feeling 100%, he's still out there for stretches of practice. As Coach Self has said, the latest cramping of the quad, it's something where he just doesn't feel that same burst really at any point, but then it really kind of wears down later in games or later in a practice, and he's unable to finish. And so, without diving into the specifics of everything they're trying and researching and the people they're hearing from to consider every possible way to get him feeling 100%, just know that he's still out there trying. And when he was shut down from gameplay or practice play, he was in there 4 times a day doing all kinds of treatment on the hamstring. And that's when we talk about Bill Cowgill, the guy they call Cheddar, and the great job he does. And kudos to him, but also kudos to the young man who at some point could have tapped out and said, because if you saw the way they work these hamstrings out and all of the treatment that goes through it, I mean, it's laborious and it's something to endure. And he was doing it 4 times a day because he's hell bent on getting back. If he was exhausted by that or put off by that or whatever, he could dust his hands, wipe his hands of it, and say, "Okay, I don't want to do this right now. Ask me in a couple weeks." No, he doesn't want to let another game go by, without having the best possible chance to be out there and play because he's a competitor. He loves the guys in that locker room, and as he said on, his personal channels, some of the behind the scenes videos that he puts out there. This is his livelihood. It's how he feeds his family. It's how he's made his name. It's his passion. And yeah, nobody wants to see Darren Peterson on the floor more than Darren Peterson. Now, he's obviously got a lot of opinions in his life that are trying to make the best possible route to recovery for him, including some great ones at Kansas that, again, are consulting all options. But I think for fans that want solace, as you termed it, or they want to feel good about it, just know that the heart of the young man is one that wants to be a part of this team. The heart of the young man is one that wants to make the most of this 1 year chapter in college and build upon his legacy and doesn't want, at the end of a prolific NBA career, what most project to be a Hall of Fame caliber career, to look back and say, yeah, but man, that chapter in Lawrence, I only got to play a fraction of the year. He doesn't want that. He wants to make some of the great memories of his life and add to that legacy while he's here for however many games that proves to be. So I'm not here with any kind of answers on how quickly we're going to get this thing solved, but I can tell you that everybody from a Kansas standpoint is working around the clock to find answers for him, and everybody in that locker room believes in the great teammate he is, how much he wants to be out there. Heck, man, even on a day when he's not going to be playing, like the other day, he's still out there guarding the first stringers, trying to make them better so that they can shine on that particular night. He's not sitting on the side, checking his socials and just kind of biding his time. He's in the trenches trying to help these guys out. And on the days during the hamstring absence when he wasn't able to be out there, he's there soaking up the scouting report, taking everything in like all the other guys, supporting his teammates, cheering just as loud when they're making plays in practice or in a game. And so that to me tells me he's got the right head on his shoulders. He's been raised right, good family, tremendous kid. And we're really lucky to have him. It's just an unfortunate deal, and it's a unique deal, as I said at the start of all that. So we got to continue to be patient and understand that I guess not every hamstring situation is the same one textbook, and in this case, the cramping that's spread to the quads, not everything there is just easy one case to another. So understand all that's at stake for the young man, but also keep in mind how much he wants to be out there.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. Brian Hanni, voice of the Jayhawks. Brian, I'll let you go, but first, give us a kind of a preview of what you got coming up on Hanni and the Hawks, your new show that you got here at Kansas Nation.
Yeah, as I said earlier, everybody has a podcast, it seems, but not everybody has a podcast on Kansas Nation with the great crew that we have here, thanks to Chad Boger and his leadership, and Gabe and Easton and Elijah and you and Sean do such a great job in helping to make that a reality. And I say that even with Haney and the Hawks, because you're helping me book the stuff in terms of the studio usage and all that. So it's a total team effort. There's a lot of out of your mom's basement type podcasts, but there's not, some with the production value and all the people working on it that one has. So I'm very lucky and very appreciative of my teammates there. But the latest episode we're going to record later today is KJ Adams. So excited to talk to KJ about how his Achilles recovery is coming, his role as a member of the basketball staff this season, but also look back on the greatest moments of his Kansas career, starting with that national championship run as a freshman and being on the floor for the closeout in the final seconds of North Carolina. There's a lot to get to with him. So we're looking forward to that. The current basketball episodes that are up that you can check out right now at kansasnation.com or YouTube or wherever you watch your shows or get your podcasts. We've talked to Alonzo Jameson, Sasha Khan, Tyrell Reed. Really good episode with Tyrell that came out this week, looking back on all the great players he played with in his career and having some fun Bill Self then versus now type comparison talk as well on what it was like to play for him and what it's like to work with him today now that Tyrell is a physical therapist with KU basketball. So a lot of good stuff. Check it out today at kansasnation.com. And thanks for the chance to promote that, as well as our friends at the Miller Retirement Group, Nate Miller. Appreciate his sponsorship of these reports. Check him out today for your investment future, millerretirementgroup.com.
Brian Hanni, voice of the Jayhawks. Always appreciate it, man. And, good luck on the call on Monday. We won't talk to you until then. KU takes on Davidson in the last non-conference game of the year coming up on Monday. Brian, thanks so much.
Thanks so much, bud. Always good to see you.
You too. Hey, after this, we got more Rock Chalk Sports on kansasnation.com and ESPN Kansas City.
Hey, this is Cole Ballard, and you're watching kansasnation.com.
Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on kansasnation.com and ESPN Kansas City. The Lilly Meister had 14 points, 9 rebounds, 1 rebound away from a double-double. But she did get her career high in points. And Brittany Harshaw, 26 points, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, 9 for 14 from the field. An impressive performance from Brittany Harshaw. All 5 of her threes came in the first half. She had 24 points in the first half. So really, really impressive stuff out of Brittany Harshaw. Both of them were made available to the media yesterday after the 107-39 victory over Haskell. Let's hear what they had to say right now.
Lilly, you guys were going wild when Brittany was going wild on the floor and you guys on the bench. Just what do you think got into her? I know she already holds the record for single game 3-point makes, so you know she can do that. But What was that like to watch her get into that zone tonight?
I mean, we watch her get into the zone all the time in practice. If you watch her work out, I don't think she misses a 3. So everyone was just kind of like, finally, like it's showing. No one was surprised. We were all very, very happy.
Brittany, you could just follow up on what did get into this particular night.
Yeah, it was definitely like a huge relief because like it was a really slow start, but I'm so happy and I'm glad that I was able to make shots. So yeah.
At any point, I mean, 5's a pretty big number in and of itself, but you hit 8, right? One game last year. Did that game last year against Iowa State ever enter your mind?
I mean, I was thinking about it a little bit, so I was like, oh, we're close, but no. Like, we got the teammates.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like second half we had a lot more ball movement and we were able to like get different teammates involved and get other people to score. So it was a good game overall.
Were those similar feelings though? You know, you obviously to hit 8 in a game, you're kind of feeling it more than kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that same sort of zone or whatever you want to call it tonight?
Flow state.
Flow state. She
Flow
did.
state.
Yeah, there you
She
go.
was in a flow state.
Yeah. Is that a similar feeling that only comes every so often, or?
I don't know. I feel like if you see the first one go in, like it's a good start for the rest of them. But yeah.
with you guys, 8 players scored 8 or more points for you tonight. How big is that balance, versatility, and depth just moving forward in conference play, knowing you have different options off the bench you can step up on any given night?
That's great. I think everybody scored tonight as well, which is, I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, it's great to have more than one person score. I think that was a big emphasis a couple of games ago, just getting more people involved. Yeah, we did a great job of that tonight, and yeah, I love when everyone scores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think confidence is a big thing, and that helped boost some people's confidence. So it's a big thing going into Big 12 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Brittany, Matt touched on your hot shooting from deep, but in the first quarter, you really got going with a couple of offensive putbacks and just layups. How big was that really to just kind of get going and see the ball go through the hoop in that first quarter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Brandon mentioned like playing hard on defense and getting stops, and that'll lead to shots falling on the offensive side. So I feel like that made a big difference, and I was able to get like some more boards, like you said, and some putbacks. So yeah.
It looked like Samaya mugged you at halftime when you guys were heading to the locker room. Did you say anything or just?
She was just happy. She was like, "No, like, are you insane? Like, what's going on?" Like.
You got Iowa State coming up, Lilly. For you, Audie Crooks leads the nation in scoring. I mean, how big is this game sort of for momentum for you guys heading into top 10 matchup against Iowa State?
I think this is great momentum-wise. Building off of our last game from Denver, I think going into Iowa State with 2 really great wins where we did share the ball. We got a lot of people involved. We're getting better at defense, and yeah, I think it's going to be great, and we're in a good spot.
Was it fun to play a team from Lawrence, and it meant a lot to them? Could you tell it meant a lot to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely a really cool experience just to have like the community involved. I think Brandon said it was like one of our like highest like selling games or something like that, like biggest crowd this year. So it was definitely really cool and just like a good like way to connect with the community. So yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick. You guys have not a couple, but a few freshmen who are still new to college basketball that obviously have had highs and lows and all those things that freshmen have. What have you seen from each of those 3? And obviously it's been limited with Jalea, but what have you seen from those 3 from not only just the summer to now, but maybe once the game started, how they've kind of found their place?
They've grown so much. And like you said, there's ups and downs, and as a senior, like, we know that better than anybody. But I think as a freshman, it's kind of hard. You have one bad game, you think it's the end of your life. But they handle it really well, and I think they show up every single day ready to learn, ready to work hard, and that's going to get them really far. But if you look at them, I think Tati especially, if you look at her from the summer to now, it's like night and day. And they're only going to keep getting better. So I'm really, really excited for not only the rest of the year, but the rest of their careers. They're going to be great.
This will be your first taste of Big 12, at least a full schedule of it.
Yeah.
Brittany, you went through it last year. Do you think those girls are ready for what's around the corner and the gauntlet of Big 12 competition?
I think so. I mean, if not, Iowa State's going to get them ready right away. So I don't have any. I know everyone has full confidence in all of them, so I'm not worried.
All right, thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
That was the Lilly Meister and Brittany Harshaw coming off career nights for both of them as KU women's basketball takes down Haskell 107-39. After this, going to be hearing from Caden Letche from the UDK and KJHK here in Lawrence. On Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City.
Hey, what's up, Chuck Nation? Roby Dunga here, and make sure you check out the new KansasNation.com. Go Chalk.
Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Big shout out to Crown Automotive and Miles Schneider, great partner with us. Also, Game Day Men's Health, a fantastic partner here in Lawrence with us. Go get yourself checked out at Game Day Men's Health in a plush man cave-like setting. Right now, joined by a very special guest, first time on the show. Known this kid for a while, where you used to be co-workers. He is with the University Daily Cans and also with KJHK. It is Caden Letche. Caden, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. First time, right? I mean, man, how does it feel to be stepping up in the big leagues?
I've been looking forward to this all my life. This is the I made it moment. So
right. Yeah, a
It's
lot of people
great.
say ESPN or something else, but you're like, no, I want to get on a Zoom call with Daniel Courtwright. I totally
That's
get it, man.
Emporia State legend, Daniel Courtwright.
Yeah. They're building my statue as we speak.
Yeah, really. I wouldn't doubt
Caden,
it. I would not doubt it.
I want to start off with a little basketball talk. Let's talk about. I want to talk about the Towson game in a little bit, but it I know it was 2 games ago, but I have to bring it up. The Melvin Council Jr. legacy game, 36 points, 9 for 15 from the 3-point line. Early in the season, he had said that he thought that he was the leader of this team, and everybody kind of laughed it off. Even Bill Self laughed it off. And in Darren Peterson's absence, he really has sort of become the leader of this team, right? He's been able to step up and hit some big shots whenever they need him. He plays with a fire under him. He's so much fun to watch play just because of the pace of play and how fast he is on that quick first step. Just talk to me about what you've seen out of Melvin Council Jr., at least through this year up to the NC State game and even through the Towson game in terms of his progression and where you thought that he was going to be maybe early in the season.
Well, so far, I would definitely say he has been a leader. And right away, a lot of people shrugged it off. But that dog mentality, as he's kind of had that persona and it's given the fans something to root for with all the barking, I think he has stepped up in a major way. And I think if Darren's playing all these games so far to start this year, I don't think we see this bright spot in Melvin Council. Maybe we do, but that's to be determined. I mean, dropping 36 is going to give you the leader persona pretty quick on a KU basketball team. So far, and I mean, we saw it against Towson. We thought maybe, okay, he was 9 for 15, 36 points against NC State. Maybe he'll have a little off night here, or that was not the case. That man, within the first couple of possessions, pulled up with a 3 on the right wing, and it felt like a heat check that he was still coming over from on Saturday. So I think so far, what we've seen out of Melvin Council, it's just been, I'm trying to figure out a word. I don't think there is a word besides maybe a couple barks here and there. But I think Melvin Council so far has been amazing, and he is definitely a leader so far in this team.
Yeah, 100%. And, on the offensive side of the ball, we're starting to see it, right? I mean, he had such a defensive upside and offensive upside in terms of facilitating the ball prior to the NC State game, right? Because he came in shooting 18% from the 3. He was in the maybe high 20s on the field. But at the same time, whenever he's out there, he definitely makes an impact. I want to talk to you about the defensive side of the ball because Kansas, as of right now, they're a top 5 team in terms of guarding the perimeter, right? They haven't had a team shoot over 30% on them the entire year. NC State came in, they were shooting 40% on the year, held them to under 30. Then Towson, they had a couple of sharpshooters in Dylan Williamson and Tyler Tejada. Those guys, we held them to 12% from the 3-point line. I guess if you could describe what you've seen on the defensive end of the ball out of this Kansas program, just what do you think the identity is right now? Because I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm a Kansas fan at heart, so I like to jump and say that we're compared to the best of the best. I was going to say like 2020 Virginia, right? But obviously, I don't know if we're there yet, but just what do you think the identity is on the defensive end of the ball out of this Kansas squad?
I think with a lot of D1 programs, when someone's not scoring, you're not going to see their 100% effort on defense. That is not the case with this team. And I think we've seen so far that on any given night, everyone is going to give 100% on that defensive end. And that has been the brightest spot for this KU offense or KU defense, excuse me. But so far for the Kansas defense, obviously we talked about it being a bright spot, but the last couple of years, we've seen teams have their best shooting nights against us. And it's just felt like the last couple of years that on any given night, whoever we're playing, they're going to make a bunch of threes. And that's just not the case this year. And so for us to be a top 5 team guarding the perimeter, obviously this is just non-conference, and it'll be interesting to see when we play teams in the Big 12. But for right now, that bright spot so far on defense has been the perimeter. So for teams not to be able to just shoot the lights out against us has been amazing. And I think everyone's just given 100%. And that's something we might not have seen as much the last couple of years.
Yeah, well said. Caden Letche, UDK, and KJHK joins the show here via Zoom from Lansing, Kansas, a home sweet home, as you like to call it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Caden, I want to talk to you about another guy, Bryson Tiller, who we've seen really come about in the beginning part of the season, and then he went on a 7-game stretch where he didn't hit a three. He went 0 for 15 in
Yep.
the span of 7 games. Finally, he was able to see, some balls through the net. But at the same time, you look back at the NC State game, 2 points, 4 rebounds. If you're a 6'10" power forward, that's just, I mean, the only word I can think of is unacceptable, right? What are you seeing out of Bryson in terms of kind of his growth and where you think his ceiling is right now? And what do you think the issue is with Bryson? Because, obviously you got Davidson coming up and then it's Big 12 play. And, you kind of have a little bit of a breather, like I said, with the Towson and Davidson game, but now you're going to be playing big boy basketball starting in January.
Yeah, as we mentioned, like it had been, what was it, 7 games? Let me look. It was the first 3-pointer he made against Towson was the first 3-pointer he had made since November 15th against Princeton. So that's definitely something that might catch an eye. But for Bryson Tiller, I think he'd be the first person to definitely tell you that he's not playing his best ball. And this is the time to have it, though. I know it's non-conference, but you don't want to have it all. You don't want to see his best be played against non-conference and then decline, excuse me. But when it comes to Big 12 play, he's going to need to figure something out. I know that he hasn't been a beast on the boards or beast down low. We saw him drop 11 against Towson. So maybe that is an early start. Maybe that's something that he can kind of hang his hat on and be like, all right, I've seen what I need to do, see what I can do, and looking forward to it. 0 for 15 from 3 over the course of a month is not something that you really want to see out of a player. But I mean, it can't keep going down. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe that's just me with the glass half full, but for Bryson Tiller, I definitely can see him starting to shoot the ball a little bit better. And once he sees those go in, I think then we're going to see a completely different player, because then he'll have the mentality of, okay, I can go get a bucket whenever I need. And that's something about this Kansas offense is any guy can go off on any given night. We've seen, obviously, Melvin dropped 36. I think if you would have told somebody at the beginning of the year that a KU player dropped 36 against NC State, I think Melvin's kind of going to be down the list. I think maybe Bryson Tiller might have been a more picked player to score 36 against that team. But no, for Bryson Tiller, I think it's something that still needs to get figured out. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a boost against Davidson, but when it comes to Big 12 play, I think he just has to see something go in. And obviously, in your high school shooting days, I'm sure you told me the story about how you're 1 for 1.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give him a little advice.
100%. We
100%. 100%.
Yeah, we leave the number of threes
Yeah.
shot out of the equation. I just say 100%.
Yeah. So, needless to say, I think with any given basketball player, I think he just needs to see one go in, and he did against Towson. So we'll see what comes of it against Davidson.
Caden Letche, UDK, and KJHK joins the show. Caden, I got an interesting mailbag question yesterday from a fan, and he had asked if Kansas is going to exceed the expectations of the preseason just in terms of where they sit, because Kansas was ranked 6th in the Big 12 preseason. Now, for Kansas fans throughout the annals of history, I guess in the Bill Self era at least, that's shocking, but also maybe it's jarring to the system to see that, but also maybe not shocking because what we've seen over the last couple of years. But I think this team has exceeded those expectations. Give us kind of a breakdown in terms of what you've seen as some of the other Big 12 teams, and if you think Kansas can exceed those that 6th number, right? Because you got Arizona, who obviously is incredible. Koa Pete has been insane. They're the number 1 team in the nation right now. You got Iowa State with Taman Lipsey. You got BYU with AJ DeBonsa. I mean, I'm looking at it. KU's probably tied up with BYU in terms of talent, in terms of the way that they play. I'm looking at them at number 3. But give us kind of a Big 12 preview in terms of where you think Kansas is going to land.
I think besides Arizona, I know it probably hurts to say as a Kansas fan, but I think Arizona is by far the clear favorite. But after that, there's a big gap. I mean, we saw Tech the other night, or Texas Tech on Tuesday, in a dogfight against Northern Colorado. We saw
Yeah.
BYU down 22 points. Obviously, they ended up winning the game against Clemson. Iowa State hasn't played their best ball necessarily. I think this Big 12 is a lot more open than, or a lot less open than what it could have been at the beginning of the year. But for Kansas, I mean, they're getting hot. And so entering this Big 12 stretch, obviously UCF to start is a good test. I don't know how many times. I'm sure you do. I don't know how many times we played UCF to start the Big 12 conference
Well, it's
play.
gonna be the third, I think.
But I think at the beginning of the year, Kansas fans would have been like, all right, we're sixth. We have the number one player or number one freshman in the country. Obviously, that hasn't been the case. We haven't seen as much Darren Peterson as we would have liked. But for where they're sitting, I mean, even without Darren Peterson, they've had amazing games. And maybe that's just me wanting to brag, but I mean, that NC State game, if without Darren Peterson at the end of that game, I don't think a lot of people really had the feeling that they were going to come away with that win. But for Big 12 standings necessarily, I would say Arizona, Pete, by far the favorites, number one team in the country. Even there's a gap between 1 and 2. But for Big 12, DeBansa and BYU have been a little shaky at times. And honestly, I'd put KU top 3 right now going into Big 12 play. Maybe that's just bias. I will be honest, that's probably just bias. But I mean, it's the looming question is, when's Darren going to come back? And obviously we know the impact he's going to make, but this Kansas team in Big 12 play is going to be a lot more consistent than they have been the last couple of years.
Well, that's what we do on the show, Caden, is spread our bias and spread our pro-Kansas propaganda, even though it might not always be the truth, but I just can't shake that. Even, as the little kid in me is saying, oh, Kansas is going to win the national championship every year. But, I do a little bit of realism, and I agree with you. Yeah, I think they're top 3.
I was thinking about that today, and I was like, man, I've gone 3 years without seeing them make it to that second weekend. And
yeah,
I don't know. There's a different feeling in the last couple of years, because we've seen Melvin go off, and we've seen Trey White go off. We've seen Flory go off. And this is a team that has guys that can go off at any given night, and that hasn't been the case recently.
100%. And, I think you're seeing something else that you haven't seen in the last 2 years, which is the guys really like each other too.
Yeah.
Not to say that the guys didn't like each other the last couple of years, but this is a tighter knit group of guys than I think we've seen in a long time at Kansas, including Darren Peterson. It's really easy for, a guy of that caliber and of that status to kind of, hide in the shadows and get locked away in his room because of all the cameras and everything. But they're like hanging out with each other. They're really good friends, which you absolutely love to see. Speaking of Darren Peterson, kind of have to, that's obviously the biggest story regarding Kansas basketball is the Darren Peterson injury saga, if you will. Now he's dealing with a quad cramping issue. He has been going through practice, and Bill Self said it has been frustrating, but we spend more time around these guys than a lot of people do, and we, I think, understand that Darren Peterson wants to play basketball, and he's not going to make the decision to sit out for the NBA. He wants to go out there and play for the University of Kansas. He just can't because of the cramping issues. What's your concern level as of right now in terms of where this is sitting? Now, obviously, you're not a doctor. Not obviously, you're a smart guy, but you're not a doctor. Journalism major.
My girlfriend's a nurse. That's about as close as I get. I asked her for medicine advice, so maybe I probably wouldn't be the worst or best for doctoral advice.
Exactly. Yeah. And also in my medical experience, which is none, I have no idea. So, but just what's your concern level in terms of where he sits at? And I guess what's your overall general thoughts on kind of the Darren Peterson saga and what we've seen out of him so far?
Well, I think it can be broken down to before NC State and after NC State. Before NC State, there was that looming question of, is he wanting to even play? Is he just kind of sitting out? Obviously, we knew that we didn't think that he was just sitting out to just sit out. We saw towards the end of that NC State game, that he had to come out and that it was that bad. And I think so before NC State, there's that up in the airness about it. And then right after that is, okay, this guy's actually hurting. So I thought maybe he would get a couple minutes against Towson. I think it would have been nice for him to kind of just get out there. Obviously, not a doctor. But I don't think we'd see him play against Davidson and rest him up for that Big 12 stretch, I guess. So my concern level, if I had to put it 1 through 10, I don't know. I'm still a glass half full type of guy. So I'm still in that maybe 5 or 6 range. I think obviously we haven't got to the heat of the schedule yet. And so if he can play during that, then the concern level obviously is away. And if he doesn't play in the middle of the Big 12 season, yeah, I think there's going to be some big questions, and I think there's going to be a lot of concern. But for right now, we've got guys that can play. And honestly, if we didn't have them against UCF, once again, this is bias. I still think Kansas wins that game. Yeah. So once we get to like the bigger Big 12 matchups where it really does matter, and if we don't see him play then the concern level is going to be a lot higher.
Caden Letche, UDK, and KJHK joins the show. Want to switch over to football. Obviously, disappointing season. 5-7. Kansas it was confirmed that they did decline a bowl game. We won't get into that because a lot of differing opinions on either whether Kansas should have taken it or not. And I guess you can give your opinion in terms of that. But I wanted to focus more on the transfer portal because the transfer portal window, there's new rules now to where Kansas is seemingly losing a lot of guys and not getting anybody in. But the reason is because the portal hasn't opened yet. Everybody that Kansas is losing has intended to go to the portal. They're not in the portal yet. Kansas can't contact anybody until January 2nd, except for Jabril Conde, who we got from Grand Valley State, which D2 has different rules. In terms of the transfer portal, there's a big question and there's a lot of right answers, I think. What position do you think needs the most bolstering out of the portal whenever it starts January 2nd?
Maybe this is just my opinion, but I would definitely say quarterback. I think Cole Ballard, Isaiah Marshall, they're good players. They're good players. But to throw them out into a team and to start right away, I mean, we haven't seen as much of them as we would have liked. Obviously, Jalen Daniels last 5-6 years. So we haven't really seen anybody else. But, I mean, there's going to be a lot of options with quarterback. Maybe we won't reach as much of a DJ Lagway or Jackson Arnold type quarterback, but I would definitely
Levitt's in the portal.
Say, I would definitely say quarterback is something that they're going to look for, and maybe it's a backup. But I think they're definitely going to be looking for a quarterback in the portal. And like I said, maybe it's not a starter that can go start day one. Maybe it's just somebody to be in that locker room and be on the bench with Ballard and Marshall. But as of right now, it's the easy answer, Dan. It's definitely the easy answer. But quarterback and running back, honestly, are the top two that I would be looking at in the portal.
Yeah, 100%, especially after losing Johnny Thompson Jr., right? I mean, you were looking at Harry Stewart and Johnny Thompson and thinking, that's the next Harshaw and Le'Shawn Williams and with Johnny Thompson leaving. By the way, my hot take, I talked about it with Henry yesterday, my blind half full court shot or whatever is that Justin Thurman's going to be the number one guy. I love what I saw out of him on his film. I think he's got a tremendous upside. So if I'm right about this, I will clip this out and put it everywhere. If I'm wrong about this, you'll never hear about it again. So just want everybody to know that. And then quarterback's interesting because we've seen a lot of Isaiah Marshall, right? And we've seen Cole Ballard start a few games in his time here, and he almost beat K-State. And the Texas Tech game, I thought he played all right. It was good minutes, and he was a freshman then. So it'll be interesting. I know Isaiah Marshall's arm isn't quite where it needs to be yet, but in terms of the run game, if you implement more option, I think Isaiah Marshall could be a really fun and talented quarterback for the future for Kansas. But yeah, like you said, a lot of stuff kind of up in the air. Caden, I know I said I wouldn't talk about it, but I guess the more that I was thinking about it, I do want your opinion. Kansas was one of, I believe, 10, maybe 9 schools who declined a bowl game after a number of different teams declined a bowl game after going 5-7. K-State, Iowa State declined bowl games, and there was a long list, and Kansas wound up being on that list. Oh, your overall take on this, because I can sit on a fence, and I can kind of see it both ways in terms of, well, yeah, it would have been great, where bowl games are not often, you don't often come by them at the University of Kansas, but also of the 33 seniors, I'm willing to bet 32 of them are already out of state. They've already handed in all of their stuff, and logistically, it would be kind of a nightmare to bring everybody back and play in this bowl game. Your overall thoughts in terms of Kansas declining the bowl game?
I think if they would have got that invitation fairly sooner, maybe they look at it a lot differently. But like you said, a lot of the players are gone, and I think that's the number one case. And it obviously costs more money to go to a bowl game than what money you're getting. So I think that's another part of it. As a fan, I would definitely wish we played, because it's always fun to be back home. You're with your family, and you're like, all right, well, let me show you some Jalen Daniels. So there's a lot of friends back home that I would have definitely made them sit down and watch Jalen Daniels play Georgia Southern on a random December Wednesday night or whatever it was. But yeah, I think if the invitation was given a lot sooner, I think maybe they would have looked at it differently. Maybe they still don't take it necessarily, but for it to be thrown towards Kansas after all these players had a week off, I don't think they were ever really going to give it much consideration. All these guys are pretty much gone. I don't think they're selfish and ready for the draft or just ready to be done yet. But when you have that week or two off of not playing, it's hard to probably get back into the swing of it and get ready for a 5-7 bowl game. And that bowl game might have had an asterisk next to it. I think being 5-7 and winning the game, and that's us being selfish. But I think, like I said, if they would have given it to them sooner, they would have looked at it a lot differently.
Yeah, for sure. Caden Letche, UDK and KJHK, appreciate you coming on the show. One more question for you before I let you go. I know you are a big TBT guy. You are our resident TBT insider. We had you on our old show to talk.
It's the best time of the year.
Yeah, you keep on saying that, and it's just not true.
I have said this week, it's the best time of the year, and I feel like I'm kind of.
You realize it's Christmas season, right?
Well, I'm also like, tomorrow's a 10 a.m. college football game on a Friday.
Yeah.
Today is a 10 a.m. basketball game and a 4 p.m. game on ESPNU.
Yeah.
Bring more mid-major games. But sorry, what was your question?
You still think TBT is anyway? Kind of a fun question for you. Not to say that they're not going to have long, illustrious NBA careers, but if you could pick one guy from this roster to be on a future KU TBT team, who are you picking?
I've said this before, and I will still stand by it. And that's not to say that this player, and I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that this player has a long career in the NBA. But for right now, Melvin Council might be the greatest Jayhawks or JHX hoops player that I've ever seen before. Even being on the JHX hoops, I guess I'll just say Jayhawk hoops. But I could see Melvin Council being a shifty guard just right there and bringing Kansas the championship that they've hoped for, I guess, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Melvin Council would bring Kansas one of the greatest championships in KU history in a TBT championship. That's a question. That's a good question for Bill Self. If KU wins a TBT tournament championship, is there a banner?
Yeah, I mean, do we put it in at least in the Booth Family Hall of Athletics, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you got to think they'll find some room, I think, and maybe put it up there.
Yeah.
Maybe Tyshawn Taylor will put it up in his house somewhere. Who knows?
One of these days.
You're still the coach. Caden, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. We'll have to have you on sometime in the future. Obviously, Sean is out, so might have you on for a draft or a top 10 or two down the line.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. Like I said, this is the greatest accomplishment in my life.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words. That was Caden Letche from the UDK and KJHK. More Rock Chalk Sports after this on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City.
What's up, everybody? Dan Peterson. Everybody go check out KansasNation.com.
Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Kansas women's basketball take down Haskell yesterday, 107-39. Really impressive performance by all of the Lady Jayhawks. Brandon Schneider was made available to the media afterwards. Here are his thoughts on the 107-39 victory over Haskell.
Brandon, Haskell's coach just kind of took us through his perspective. He told us the other day of how the game came to be, and I think he said when you asked him what you could do for him, he said the guarantee game, and you kind of laughed, and then it happened. Was there a time where it was something you had to work toward to get this game?
No. I think it was where we could put it. More than anything, I think we'd already kind of had some exhibition dates in our close scrimmage dates filled, and then we really struggled to get a game this week, and I didn't want to go a full week without playing. Players don't like that, especially when school's not in session. So felt like this it fit their schedule, it fit ours, and just so excited about how the community rallied around it. I have a ton of respect for him and those young women. And, I played small college basketball myself. So I know what you have and what you don't have. And but I promise you their experience, just as my experience at Wayland Baptist or the players we coached at Emporia State, which is a smaller level, those guys are going to be as prepared or probably more so than our young women, when they transition into the real world, because a lot of what our young women experience is not real. It's not the real world. So I'm happy for them, and hopefully it really benefits their program.
What was competitively, basketball-wise, what was your approach for this game? What did you emphasize with your team, and did you get what you wanted or needed out of it?
Well, I think you saw, how well they moved the ball. They're very well coached, and they ran good actions. They moved the ball, they shared the ball, and there was going to be a lot of opportunities for us to continue to work on positioning and communication, being assignment correct, more so maybe even than our last game. So I think it really benefited us in that regard. I knew we were going to play against multiple defenses. We saw quite a bit of zone in the first half, and then we saw a lot of switching man in the second. So, we don't play a lot of zone, so we don't get a lot of work on that in practice. So it was great work for us.
With Brittany going off in the first half, what did you see out of her and her confidence? Obviously, you saw it last year, but finally this year, kind of coming to at 26 points.
Yeah, I just think it's so beneficial for players. I look at Libby Fandel last week. Just needed the lid to come off, and Brittany shoots it really well in practice. All of our drills, and just for whatever reason, hadn't shot it great early here in the year, and excited for her and excited for Libby both, because we're gonna need them.
So how do you feel now with Big 12 play about things, just about the state of your team?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like us to be 100% healthy, but I think in the long run, every team has bumps and bruises where lineups, maybe an individual is out a game or two, and maybe this will benefit us in the long run with some adaptability and flexibility, moving people around. We've had people who've had to practice and learn a lot here in the last few weeks. But we'll be the best version of ourselves when we get back and have everybody healthy.
Getting everybody healthy, just what are Julia and Reagan's statuses right now?
Yeah, I think I think Jalea's much closer than Reagan, and if we don't have her for Iowa State, I really hope that when we come back from break, that she'll be ready to go there at the beginning of January. But Jalea's status isn't a whole lot different. It's almost a day-to-day type of thing, and Reagan's a little farther off.
Obviously, Julia's been limited, but when you look at that group of 3 freshmen, how ready are they for Big 12 play and the grind that is?
Well, I think you just go back to, I think Julia's played 3 games. I think you go back and immediately she's ready. And I think the other twos, their transition hasn't been maybe as smooth, but that's okay. I think they're both closer, but until you play a few Big 12 games and get those under your belt, and you understand the sense of urgency that you have to play every single possession with. I don't know that I could speak to that. I think they have to, a little bit of baptism by fire, if you will.
Coach, you touched on Brittany's 3-point shooting, but in that first quarter, she was also super active defensively and on the boards. How important was that for you to see as well?
Yeah, I was really happy when we went to our bench. I was frustrated with our starting lineup in terms of their defensive intensity collectively. And I thought when we went to our bench, that really improved. We had some people not making shots early, and I think that is always related to you're not playing hard enough on defense. You go out and you play hard on defense, you box out, you rebound, the ball will go in the basket for you. And I think, at least tonight, I was proven right.
Coach, with a game like this, obviously a lot of bench minutes from you. How important is that for them to kind of get that work, especially with a couple of injuries, knowing that they're going to have to step up, especially against a top 10 team in Iowa State next week?
Yeah, it's really important. We felt like going into the season that the depth of our team could be a real asset, and not only has it proven very needed here early in the year, but just excited about having a lot more people that can contribute at a high level.
And speaking of Iowa State, Audie Crooks leads the nation in scoring right now. Just looking at that matchup down low, Lilly playing well, Nadira did a good job on her last year. Just what are you seeing out of Iowa State right now?
Well, I wish we had 10 more fouls. She's really good. They're really good. Really tough matchup. And I think when you have that kind of paint presence surrounded by the 3-point shooting that they have, it makes it very difficult to even decide on a plan. So it may have to be a little bit like a football defensive coordinator. Hey, we're in this for a couple snaps, and then we're in this for a couple snaps, and then we got to go to I don't know. It's they're good.
Haskell's coach was appreciative of the T-shirts you gave him. Who thought of that, and do you feel good that you guys are good neighbors, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm. That's Doug and Damon, part of our staff, and then the rest of the marketing staff in our department. I think they did a terrific job, in promoting the game and making it a community event. And I hope Adam felt good about it. I know I couldn't be happier with the support that we got.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you said early in the season, make sure you're not taking Samaya for granted. I don't think you do. But there was that time toward the end of summer, I guess, where you said it's time to flip the switch. Does she have a switch she has to flip for Big 12 too, or can she flip one, or do you need that?
Well, I think she definitely can do that, you know. I mean, you go back and had she had any help against Georgia, that's probably a different outcome. But so much of it is her willingness to read the defense. And, you know, that's where she's gotten really, really good. And, you know, just like we have to figure out how are we going to defend Audie Crooks and Addie Brown and Jada Williams and the rest of that team, other teams have to decide, you know, how they're going to defend her and how they're going to keep her off the free throw line. I mean, she shot well over 100 free throws already on the season. So there's other players in our league that are a real problem, but so is Samaya Nichols.
And then with Tatiana, she's only 5 fouls, not 10. Could she be that sort of X factor, just the way she plays and sort of that unknown? I mean, you know, just throw her out there and let her.
Well, I think there's opportunities maybe that because you know, Crooks doesn't play 40 minutes, so there may be more opportunities for her when she's not in the game, which then allows you to try to keep Nadira and Lilly, you know, on her, which are better matchups just from a physicality standpoint and experience standpoint.
All good?
That was Kansas head women's basketball coach Brandon Schneider addressing the media after a 107-39 victory over Haskell. After this, I'm going to be doing a positional group breakdown for Kansas. First one that we've done all year. Going to start off with the quarterbacks. Going to be breaking down Jalen Daniels, Isaiah Marshall, and Cole Ballard on Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City.
Hey, this is Cole Ballard, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Daniel Courtwright here. Going to finish off the show, talk a little KU football, doing a KU football positional grade. I'm going to be doing these all throughout. Going to be going through every single position, just essentially what I thought from this year. And then, you know, later on in the year, I'll probably do one in terms of where we are at, but I will go ahead and do a positional group grade just in terms of what we saw from this year. And I'm going to start off with the head of the snake at the quarterback position. I'm going to talk Jalen Daniels with you. Jalen Daniels has an interesting story, an interesting legacy, a complicated one, but a good one, I think, in terms of he was, you know, one of the larger parts of the biggest turnaround in college football in the last 25, I would say, of all time, right? So I'll kind of roll you through his stats because he started off the year really good, right? If you remember the Fresno State game on October 23rd, he went 18 of 20, almost a perfect game, 90% completion percentage, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't play a lot in that game, so that's why the yardage was not there, but his QBR was 213.4, or excuse me, his QBR was 93, his rating was 213.4, also had 47 rushing yards on 8 rushes in that game. So off to a hot start there. Wagner game, he comes in 18 of 25 for 284 touchdowns, did throw a pick. It was a really good play by one of the Wagner defensive backs, just, you know, managed to grab it down, and that one was unfortunate, but still 4 touchdowns in that game as well, 72% completion, and then just got kind of better from there, right? 18 of 30 against Mizzou, 223. He had 2 touchdowns and an interception. The interception was a really tough interception, trying to throw it away, and Mizzou managed to pick it off in Kansas territory. Wound up losing that game 42-31. West Virginia, he goes out. I thought he had a good game in this one, but it wasn't his best game by any means. He went 12 of 24 for 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 69 rushing yards in this one. Kansas throttled West Virginia. It was 41-10, so didn't really need a lot of Jalen Daniels in that one as well. Cincinnati played an excellent game. He had 445 yards, 19 of 28 in a 37-34 loss. That was his best game of the year by far. He had 4 touchdowns in that one. Just the Kansas defense not able to contain Brendan Sorsby and company. Over on Cincinnati, UCF 18 of 26 for 235. No touchdowns in this one. Texas Tech surprisingly did have a really good game. He went 27 of 33 for 255 and 2 touchdowns, minus 40 rushing yards. He just got sacked a ton, and Texas Tech was just too hard to handle. And that one, obviously, a top 10 team at the time. They were ranked number 9 when Kansas wound up playing them. And then it all kind of fell apart, right? You had the K-State game. 17 of 35, 129 yards, an interception. He did have a rushing touchdown, but that game was one of the worst games I've seen out of Jalen in a long time. I think he just got kind of rattled, and then it really did not improve from there. You look at the stats against Oklahoma State, 13 of 19 for 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. A lot of run game in that one, but Kansas really handled Oklahoma State. They were the worst team in the Big 12 by far, but still only 110 yards through the air. Didn't necessarily need it, but still the stats weren't there. Against Arizona, had 199 yards, so close to 100. 15 of 29 for a touchdown. Then Iowa State, 13 of 23 for 154. Utah to finish it out, 10 for 27, 187 yards, 3 interceptions. All 3 of them came in the red zone. So I think you can kind of look at it, and after the K-State game, at least the K-State game and on, was kind of when we saw the downfall of, this isn't Jalen Daniels. Like, we've seen Jalen Daniels play football, and that's just not the way that he plays football, at least from what we've seen. I don't know if it was a mental thing. I don't know if he got rattled after the K-State game or whatever it may be. Again, it was a tough stretch, right? Arizona was a good program. Iowa State was a good program. Utah was a good program. K-State was a good program. And Kansas only won 1, and he didn't have a game over 200 yards until since the TCU game back on October 11th. So obviously a really unfortunate ending to, one of the better quarterbacks in Kansas football history. Hopefully he has a long, illustrious NFL career. Finished off the season 2,531 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Started off the year super hot. Ended it not super hot. I want to talk about some of the other guys. Isaiah Marshall, he did get in for 8 games, and we saw some flashes out of him. Only had 3 passing attempts on the year for 28 yards, but whenever Isaiah Marshall came into the game, didn't really pass the ball whatsoever, right? He was a runner, right? He had 15 carries for 160 yards. So really excited to see about the future for Isaiah Marshall. Cole Ballard played in 7 games. He had 108 yards on the year, 10 for 22, 15 rushes, 92 yards. So excited about the future. Obviously, watching Jalen Daniels close out his year the way that he did was really unfortunate. And we wish him obviously the best, but he's no longer with the team, so it's time to move on, and it's time to look towards the future. And a lot of good prospects coming into this KU program, a lot of good guys already on the squad. So that was my positional group breakdown of the quarterbacks for KU football. That's going to do it here for today for Rock Chalk Sports. For Elijah Schmidt, I've been Daniel Courtwright saying thanks so much for listening to Rock Chalk Sports on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City.
Hey, what's up, Chuck Nation? Roby Dunga here, and make sure you check out the new KansasNation.com. Rock Chalk.